My stepdad forced me to share a room with my step-siblings on a vacation I paid for. So, I decided to do this instead. Now they're all furious because they're stranded in a foreign country with no money and no accommodations, while I'm having the time of my life. It was a little past midnight, but after searching for a while, I found another hotel a little distance away from the one I was in. I was lucky enough to get an Uber without waiting for long. And within half an hour, I checked into the other hotel, which was better than the previous one because now that I've managed to get rid of my mom and her family, I could finally afford to spend all that money on myself. I had a good night's sleep, and the first thing that I did this morning was book myself a full-body massage at the hotel spa to put myself at ease and fully be able to enjoy the vacation I'd intended to have after several months of working myself to the bone for this promotion. I'd already blocked my stepdad and mother the night before, so I wasn't too worried about hearing from them, and there was no way they'd be able to find out where I was. I was having the time of my life so far, but that was only until a couple of hours ago when at lunch, I finally heard from my mother. She'd made a fake account on Instagram to get through to me and had sent me a message about how I was being cruel to all of them, especially her. She said that abandoning my family wasn't the way to go. And if I'd really felt so offended by the events of the previous night, then I should have waited until the morning to confront them and discuss this like a family until we came to a conclusion that everyone would be pleased with. But instead, I chose to abandon them in a strange country knowing that they didn't have any money on them at the moment since their cards wouldn't work internationally and the hotel staff was already hounding them for money since they'd been talking about checking out once they discovered that I left in the middle of the night without telling any of them anything about it. So, essentially, they didn't have any money and would soon be thrown out of the hotel as well if they couldn't confirm that they'd pay for the rooms since I transferred the rooms to them instead before I left. So I couldn't be held responsible if anything went south, which I knew it would. My mother told me that she was incredibly disappointed in me and said that she hadn't expected this sort of juvenile and immature disappointment in me and demanded that I come back immediately to sort things out and bail them out. It was that exact entitlement that pissed me off. And in the heat of the moment, I messaged her back saying that she was an adult and could sort things out on her own and to ask her husband for help since he's the one she relies on for everything now. And that pissed her off because after that message, she told me that she wished she'd never even agreed to accompany me on this vacation at all, and that she should have known that I was jealous of her new life and her new family, which is why I was going out of my way to trouble them. I don't think this is my fault at all. And my reaction was probably how any sane human being in my situation would react to something like this in the same way. I'm not jealous. I'm just disappointed that she's putting them before her own flesh and blood. But even that's okay since I'm an adult now. What I'm not cool with is being disrespected by people who are counting on me and her not to even bother to stand up for me when her husband is being so rude to me right in front of her. AITA for abandoning my mother and her family in a different country because my stepdad tried to force me to share a room with my step-siblings on a vacation that I paid for? Update 1. Hey guys. So I didn't apologize to my mother, and neither did I get back in touch with her after I went through the comments here. I don't know her as much as I thought I did. And the fact that I even offered to take her on vacation should have been enough for her to appreciate my efforts. But she just had to take it way too far. Not only did she demand that I let her bring her family along, but also that I give up my personal space and privacy to accommodate her stepkids. I don't even understand why exactly she'd expect me to sit with them and discuss things like a family when they're not even my family in the first place. Like, her husband is her husband and not my dad. And her kids are her stepkids, not my siblings. So I don't owe it to them to have any discussions with them of any sort. And I only abandoned them because they've been incredibly disrespectful towards me even though I've been the one to even organize this vacation for them all. So the least they could have done was show some gratitude and respect to me, but they chose not to. And I really don't see anything wrong with what I did. The only place I'd say I went wrong was the fact that I even let my mother convince me to let her bring her family along with her on the vacation. They're not my family, and I don't owe it to her to let her enjoy the trip at my expense. But I thought that I needed to repay her, which is why I let myself be pushed around like this. She'd been a good mother to me, but that was no excuse for her to act so entitled now. And that's just my opinion. It's been one whole day, and I haven't responded to her, but she keeps texting me on and off. I haven't bothered to check her text, and neither have I blocked her. Since then, she'll just make another account to bother me. So it's better to just let her ramble on and on since I've muted her and won't be bothered now. I'm enjoying my trip solo now. Update 2. My mom just showed up with the rest of her family at the hotel I'm staying at. And threw a tantrum in the hotel lobby when they refused to let her up to see me or even tell them my room number, which is just normal hotel policy. I don't know why she was surprised at that. But, anyway, when I went down to check out what she was here for, she was furious and pulled me aside before yelling at me for what I'd done. Apparently, they've somehow managed to check out of the previous hotel by coordinating with their bank and paying them off somehow. But now they wanted me to answer them as to why exactly I'd abandoned them. I don't think I owe them an explanation at all, but I still told her the exact reason that I've left her and watched as her husband's face became more and more sour-looking. By the time I was done talking, he looked like he was ready to burst with annoyance at me, but I didn't care. It was his own fault that they had to suffer like this. And if he'd just been nice and polite to me, then I wouldn't have run away at all. So it was pointless to make faces at me to try and guilt trip me. It was also pointless to lecture me about family values and morals, which is what my mother chose to do. She told me that what I'd done was unacceptable, and the way I had chosen to deal with this situation was not only humiliating for them, but it was also a pathetic move on my part because it made me look like a coward who was too afraid to talk to her own family. I was already pretty pissed off. And when she brought up the whole family thing yet again, I had a bit of an outburst and told her that we were not a family at all. Because first of all, she'd lied to us and hidden this so-called family of hers from us for a long time and had only deemed it important enough to let us know when she was about to get married. Not only that, but also she and her husband had never made an effort to make me feel like family at all. So it was expected that I'd treat them as such. She should have just been glad that I offered to take them on vacation for her sake only. But if she was too blind and entitled to even appreciate that, then so be it. I didn't know her anything either then. I told her to her face that now I didn't want to see her anymore, and I wanted them to leave me alone for the rest of the vacation. She tried to demand that I book their flight tickets back home, but I refused since, like I already said, I'd done what I promised. But if they couldn't appreciate that, then I wasn't some fool who was going to go out of my way to help them. They were both adults. They had their own money. And if they were going to take me for granted, then they could kiss my offer goodbye. There was some more bickering after that, but then my stepdad had the good sense to intervene and took them all away, all the while shooting me the nastiest looks that he possibly could as if I even cared. A couple of hours have passed since then, and right now, I'm on my way out for dinner with a friend of mine who lives here and reached out to me when she found out that I was visiting. Hopefully, my mom and her family will just go back home and let me enjoy the rest of this trip on my own because I really have no interest in continuing this unnecessary fight.